Ahoy, adventurers! Your old buddy Hambone is here with a brand new coupon code from our friends over at Noble Knight Games. That's right, Noble Knight is back with another code, this time for $5 off. Orders $25 or more, and that code is MONSTERS. Now, what's cool about this code is now is the best time to be hanging out safe and sound at home playing games with your friends and family. So this is a great way to get a nice little discount on the game that you've been thinking about picking up and having shipped directly to your house. If you're local to Noble Knight is doing touch-free curbside pickup Monday through Saturday, noon to 5 p.m. All you got to do is call ahead and order your items online. You can check out more info on that on their website, nobleknight.com. And make sure when you check out, you use the code MONSTERS. That's MONSTERS. MONSTERS for $5 off. Your order's $25 or more, now through June 21st.
This is the Vintage RPG Podcast, your source for the best in classic and contemporary RPGs. With your hosts, Hambone and Stu.
Welcome to the Vintage RPG Podcast, coming at you again from the clubhouse hidden somewhere in the swamps of New Jersey. I'm John Hambone McGuire, and with me, as always, is the editor-in-chief of Unwinnable.com. The only petty he ever cared about was named Tom, Stu Horvath.
Oh, man, these are supposed to be funny. They're not supposed to bring a tear to my eye.
I know, man, but it was really hard to get that one in. We miss you, Tom Petty.
Ugh, it hasn't been the same since, man. I hear his songs. They used to fill me with such joy. Now they just make me sad inside.
I think it started with Petty and it ended with Bowie. That was the last seal that was broken, and now here we are. So, Stu, speaking about Petty, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about petty gods. You know what a petty god is?
It sounds like something Neil Gaiman wrote.
Yeah, it does kind of sound like something Neil Gaiman wrote, actually. I was going to go with a petty god is a god that takes away Tom Petty, but either or.
Yeah, I've heard it both ways.
Yeah. So petty gods is, Jesus Christ, we're off to a start. Petty gods, Gavin Norman, actually, when we interviewed him, he mentioned it to us, and I was just, what? And I immediately tracked it down and picked it up. And it's an interesting project. I don't want to get too much into the history because I don't understand it and know it, and it's full of a lot of weird internet things that happened in the OSR scene. And all of that stuff is generally baffling to me, and we're just going to skip over it because I don't know, and I don't really want to know, to be honest.
Vintage RPG, we're here to bring you the Reader's Digest version.
Yeah. I'm mostly interested in the end product of this thing. So basically what it is Deities and Demigods that was crowdsourced in 2010. And the PDF was compiled in 2013 as a free PDF, and then you could buy a print version of it from Lulu.com, and you get it for cost. Nobody gets paid out of this. It's just a completely free product except for materials.
Really?
Yeah, it's the cheapest Lulu book I ever bought. It was like $27. And I have to say that Lulu makes a pretty fine hardcover. It seems solid. It doesn't feel like it's going to fall apart. I have some other print-on-demand books I'm less enthused about. This one seems to be put together really nicely. So it was $27 well spent. So this is a completely free book. And now, granted, it has kind of a limited utility because it's 378 pages of gods.
Wow.
And they are petty gods. These are like little godlings. They could sort of be like genus loci, or they have very, very narrow portfolios, like the god of murderers who hide in shadows. Super specific, but it's so cool because you could totally tell that this is crowdsourced because there is a little bit of unevenness in tone and quality. Although I have to say that nothing in this book is bad. But there's ones that are just sort of deeply silly, and then there's ones that are really interesting and super serious. And that kind of whiplash going back and forth from entry to entry, just sort of like, whoa, okay. But I love this fact. I love the fact that this is created by a whole bunch of people who just were like, I'm going to make a god for this. And that it created a book that was, almost 400 pages. And it was inspired by the classic Judges Guild supplement Unknown Gods from a million years ago. That is the same sort of thing. It's just sort of obscure deities for your fantasy game. Stat-wise, it's statted for Labyrinth Lord, which is basically, a different flavor of D&D hack. So you can pick this up and use it in any kind of D&D powered campaign without really any kind of modification. And you can strip the stats and use the gods because they're gods. You don't really need stats. You can use them for anything.
Yeah, I mean, if your players are rolling up and fighting a god, they got bigger problems.
Yeah, and attention to detail. I love it when these OSR folks just like double down on the like we love the old D&D aesthetic. Like it's an orange spine book,
Oh, that's the best.
but at the same time it also sports a wraparound cover like the earlier hardcovers for D&D, so like they have it both ways. And like the typesetting is all very familiar to you if you flip through any of the first edition books. It feels in line with it. It's filled with gorgeous art that feels modern, but it also feels OSR, and it's really cool. I love the fact that this project exists and you could just pick it up. It's free on drive-thru.
It's free on drive-thru?
Like totally free on drive-thru. If you want print, you can get it for $27.
So does anyone actually own it? I don't understand it.
The publishing credit goes to the old school role-playing community, which abbreviates to ORC. And yeah, my understanding is because it was born in the message boards, it like kind of stays in the message boards, and it didn't seem equitable to charge for it, so nobody got paid.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I like that. I like the spirit of that kind of collaboration. I mean, I always think that people should get paid, but like, you know, if people don't want to get paid, that's cool. They just all donated their gods and they live on in this really badass book.
I mean, there is something to be said about that. There is something to be said about, you know, coming up with the punk rock scene early 2000s, you would get on a comp and you wouldn't get paid to be on the comp, but you'd be on the comp with like some really cool other bands. And because you were on this comp, then maybe someone would see your work or listen to your song and be like, oh, now I want to go and find this band. I mean, you would be on a comp with like 32 other bands, but I mean, it was an advertising tool for your band. And then if your band broke up inevitably, like they all did, and you didn't get too far, you had this comp, you're like, well, here, but I'm on the same comp as like Saves the Day, and I'm on the same comp as like the Get Up Kids and some bigger bands. So it's something you could actually like show your kids or your grandkid, like, I did this.
Yeah. I should say that it's not all gods. There's some servitor races and some magic items as well. Just as an example, I opened it up to page 83, and one of the gods is King Shroom, who is the petty god of mushroom kingdoms.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's awesome and silly. And then, right across from King Shroom is Carissa, who is the petty goddess of ghouls, and her title is the Ghoul Queen. And, she seems a little bit more serious. And there's ones that, like, solve sort of meta problems with D&D. This one's called Jillineth, the petty goddess of miraculous horrors. And the idea is that she's the goddess that restocks dungeons. So, like, the description is, ever encounter a room whose occupant was too large to have entered via the door? So it's like all the weird crap that goes on in D&D dungeon designs. This is the goddess that supports those monsters. You crack open a vault that hasn't been opened in 1,000 years and there's orcs ready to fight you. It's like she's the one who's been feeding them. Like, I love that.
So basically, how did this Hydra get into the Temple of Elemental Evil? It was decorated by Jillineth.
Yes, exactly.
That's cool. I like that. That's fun.
Yeah. It's interesting, and I feel like this is one of the great products that I've encountered that really came out of the earlier OSR. I guess maybe this is like the second wave of OSR that's very, very D&D focused and, sort of slavishly worships that old school aesthetic. But this sort of proves to me that, like, you could be super in service of a specific thing and still come up with, like, a lot of really great content that's new and creative without feeling super derivative at the same time. And like I happened to get this at the same time as a couple of mega dungeons, Barrow Maze and The Forbidden Caverns of Archaea, both by the same author whose name escapes me, and I can't look it up because they're not near me. But all three of them are orange spine books, and they all just like go at it at this one idea, a Deities book or, a mega dungeon, and just like do that thing so well and better and bigger than anything that was released in the 70s and 80s by TSR. Petty Gods is literally twice the size of Deities and Demigods. And Barrow Maze is like another 300-page mega dungeon. It's like, no way TSR would put out something like that. It's a gigantic book. Like, I can't even imagine running it because it's just such a huge space to explore. Like, you're going to throw characters in that forever and they're all going to die. But it's awesome because it's just like, that's the point. Like, to make something so big, something totally unconquerable that's so rooted in those early design and aesthetic choices of D&D. I feel like this is a moment that is rapidly passing. if it hasn't passed already. I feel like it was definitely something that was going to run its course eventually, because I think that you can only tap that nostalgia well so long before other things have to happen. And you can see that in what is sort of been hot in the last couple of years. Like the OSR stuff is still there. It's still an idea, but you have OSE, which is really pushing it forward to a usability thing. And then Dolmenwood is like, yes, it's old school, but it doesn't draw on those established old school design pillars. Look at the Hot Springs Island from Swordfish Islands, and UVG and all of these other things that OSR is pushing into like new and exciting and weird territory, and has sort of, I think, left the nostalgia behind. And that's a good thing overall. But there were some really stunning achievements that were created out of that nostalgia, and Petty Gods is definitely one of them.
Well, you know what's great about RPGs in general is that there's always something for everybody. At this point, especially going back as far as seeing like the Dallas RPG, like there is literally a game for everybody. What's great about nostalgia is nostalgia brings people back to the table. And I think that is something you can't really argue as far as what is a new edition of Dungeons & Dragons really good for. Well, it's good for bringing new people into the hobby and getting people curious and excited about Dungeons & Dragons again. And it's great to bring older fans back to the table to kind of dip their toe back in it and either say, hey, this is great. I remember why I love playing Dungeons & Dragons. I'm going to stick with this. Or, okay, cool. I remember loving playing games, but this still isn't for me. And now I'm going to go and find Dolmenwood. I'm going to buy this Petty Gods book. I'm going to find old school essentials, and I'm going to find my own way and my own footing with this. So, I do agree with you. I do think that we are at the very other side of the bell curve when it comes to nostalgia. And that being said, everyone who is on the ship right now is getting really excited about making things happen. And I think that stuff like this, Petty Gods, is clearly an indicator of that, where people are just giving out their like gods to be a part of this and to, live on forever in the pages of the book.
Yeah, I think that there's a flow to it. I think that eventually, like, the really experimental thing will snap back, and there'll be more of a contraction back into, the warm, fuzzy feelings of nostalgia. Like, I simultaneously think that nostalgia is both poisonous and wonderful. I think that it can be so crippling, but it could also just be so comforting at the same time. And it's like Digitalis. It's about the dosage. A little bit will do you a lot of good. A lot will probably kill you. But I think that Petty Gods does a pretty good job. And I think that the unevenness in the tone, I think the mix of super serious stuff with silly stuff, with meta stuff, and I think that putting all that stuff in the same bag does a really good job of like grounding it. And there's the allowance for the tongue to be placed firmly in cheek.
Very cool, Stu. So do you have any final thoughts on Petty Gods?
It's free. Go get it. Go flip through it. And if you like it enough in PDF form and you have the $27 or $28, plop it down because it looks really nice on the shelf.
Very cool, Stu. This was another awesome episode of the Vintage RPG Podcast. Stu, where can the people find you?
They could find me at Vintage RPG on Instagram, talking about things like Petty Gods and Deities and Demigods and other cool role-playing books and games like that.
Awesome. You can find me on the Twitter at Handbreaker. I tweet about cute animals. I tweet about Dungeons & Dragons. I tweet about professional wrestling. You could also follow my day-to-day adventures in podcasting and in life over on Instagram at John Hambone McGuire. If you love the show, definitely don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Your reviews actually help other listeners to find us. And don't forget to join our Discord. We're talking about stuff like this every day over on Discord. And if you're feeling fancy, stop on over and check out our Patreon, patreon.com/vintagerpg. We've got bonus content. We've got early release episodes. And we also are running games for our patrons. So definitely think about stopping by and checking that out. We'd love to talk more about games with you. So for Stu Horvath, I'm John Hambone McGuire. May the dice always roll in your favor.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Every review helps other listeners to find us. The Vintage RPG Podcast is a ham-fisted production. Music by Dega West. Art by Schaefer Brown. If you like the podcast, you should also consider becoming a patron at patreon.com.